This is Indy Next by Firestone. With live coverage of today's practice, this is IndyCar Radio.
Welcome. 33 Dreams of Indy. Going to be covering Indy Next practice. Kicking off the season in St. Pete. So we're going to be tuning in to some of the IndyCar radio, giving you some insight on the St. Pete action and following along with you for the kickoff of the Indy Next season.
Apologize for a few technical difficulties, working things out here for the first practice session of the season. My name is Nick Yeoman. Our driver analyst is Davey Hamilton. Michael Young joins us here inside the broadcast booth here in sunny, sporty St. Petersburg, Florida, as we see the cars heading out on the racetrack for their first practice session, only session of the day. And Davey Hamilton, it is, I think, a pretty intriguing season. We got lots of drivers to talk about, lots of storylines, but you look back to a year ago, and Louis Foster and Jacob Abel won a lot of races. Well, now they're in IndyCar. This thing feels wide open.
Well, that's exactly what was supposed to happen, right? When you do well in Indy Next, you're supposed to move into that IndyCar series. Now, not that easy. A lot of times there's not seats available. It really came down to the end, actually, for Abel to get into that Del Coyne team. And surprisingly, well, not really surprisingly, he had a really good test. The reason I say maybe surprisingly, Del Coyne didn't have any drivers. They didn't do, you just didn't know what was happening. They show up at the test, all new people, and they had some good runs at Sebring as far as lap time. So it's going to be exciting to see how these two rookies, one with Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan, and one with Coyne.
Yep, we're going to talk a lot about those two rookies later today during the first IndyCar practice session. But Michael Young, a lot of newcomers, a lot of new names here in Indy Next by Firestone, and this is what this series is supposed to do, as Davey talked about, not only generate the next generation of talent up to the IndyCar series, but start to introduce our race fans to some of these new names. We got a lot of great ones this year.
It was interesting. We talked a little bit earlier today about who we're going to watch for the championship, and initially we said, hey, this thing is wide open. There are a lot of good names, a lot of new faces. Drivers that we'll have to look at. But remember last year, and not that last year will be the repeat of this year, but our podium finishers were Louis Foster, Nolan Siegel, and Jacob Abel.
Yeah.
Who are the guys that all went on to IndyCar. So not saying that whoever finishes on the podium of this race will be the names we need to watch, but to your point, there are a lot of great names, and even talking to the drivers earlier today, it's up in the air. Not that they're nervous, but they're like, you look around the paddock, and there are a lot of fantastic, talented drivers in this series this year.
Yeah, so many storylines. We're going to detail plenty of those throughout the course of this practice session, as the majority of the field has made their way onto the racetrack, getting some heat into those Firestone tires. 21 drivers represented by 4 teams, 5 teams, I guess, if you count the partnership with Andretti Global and Kate Motorsports. But it is Andretti Global bringing 4 cars this season with Lockie Hughes, Salvador de Alba, Dennis Hogger, and James Rowe. Then you've got the 2 Kate Motorsports partnered cars with Seb Murray and Ricardo Escoto. HMD Motorsports brings their usual armada, Nolan Aller, Josh Pearson. Again, some of these names are going to be familiar to folks that have followed along with the Indy Next by Firestone series. Tommy Smith is a rookie from Melbourne, Australia. He's part of that team as well. Nikita Johnson is a rookie from right here in St. Petersburg, Florida. He's on a partial season effort. He's out there right now. He's joined at HMD Motorsports with Kyle Collette, who is certainly one of those championship contenders, along with a pair of female drivers, Sophia Florsch being one of them, and Haley Deegan, who makes the move over from the NASCAR ranks. Liam Skeets is on a 1-race deal. He's with HMD Motorsports. And then Bryce Aaron, who moves over from from Andretti Global. Then you've got Able Motorsports. We're familiar with that team. They won quite a few races a year ago with Jacob Abel. He moves up to IndyCar, and they bring 4 drivers this season. Callum Hedge, a contender every week a year ago. Miles Rowe makes the move over to Able Motorsports. Jordan Missick and Jack William Miller join those two as well. And then Davey, the newcomer to Indy Next, is far from a newcomer to IndyCar. That is Chip Ganassi Racing. They're going to field 2 cars this year with Jonathan Brown and Niels Colin, who have some Indy Next experience, a whole heck of a lot to prove. But awesome to see Chip Ganassi dipping his toe into the junior ranks to try to build this thing up and continue to fill out the field.
Well, I think
so. A lot of attention being paid to Hailie Deegan, being the rookie coming over from the Xfinity Series in NASCAR with HMD Motorsports. We're going to see her get on the track. We now have timing and scoring up and running for the practice session. It's going to be a quick session. This is the only session of the day, the only practice for Indy Next. And one of the keys for these drivers is making sure that they stay off of the walls on the street course. It's such a short session that you really only have an opportunity to make one change to your car if you need to over that period of time. So the cars will get out on the track. We'll talk a little bit about timing and scoring as we go through as well, because they don't record the lap times right at the start-finish line. And I'll show you that in just a diagram here in just a second.
Reallocating your assets. They had the 5-car operation, which you just mentioned last year. They did not have an Indy Next team put together, so they allocate some of those crew members that they were working through the system, right? They had developed a lot of great crew members in that system, in that 5-car operation. So instead of losing them to another operation, start an Indy Next by Firestone program, bring some of those young talents that you were working on and some of the other teams that you had in the NTT IndyCar Series, develop them and build another feeder system. And you know, to Davey's point, that's basically what Chip's trying to do here. And if he's able to do it, I mean, think how great of a team he has right now in the NTT IndyCar Series. If he can graduate some of these drivers in the next handful of years, hats off to Chip.
Very early in this practice session, Lockie Hughes the fastest right now. In fact, the trio of newcomers right now, 1, 2, 3 on the timing charts. Lockie Hughes, Sophia Florsch, and Tommy Smith. Davey, let's talk a little bit about this racetrack. Been coming to St. Petersburg for many.
And Lockie Hughes at the top of the board right now with a quick lap. Couple things that you'll look for in the laps as well that I look for is what is their times that they're doing, how many total laps are they actually performing, are we going to see them make any sort of tire changes throughout this? A little difficult to tell that without having video directly of what's going on, but you can usually tell whether or not a car goes into the pits and then comes out. A lot of these drivers have gone through the ranks, unlike what Hailie Deegan has done her first year in an open wheel car. But a lot of these drivers have gone through the Indy Pro Championship Series, where they've gone either whether it be through the Pro Juniors, the Pro, or the Pro 2000 Series, and worked their way up to the through the USF Series to be in here. So some of these drivers, 8 rookies in the field. The remaining cars have made, some drivers have made some sort of attempt at a race without the Indy Next Series. So let's check in again with what the radio coverage is talking about here.
But I was the first one on the track, so it's going to be exciting again, the same track that they're used to.
Already starting to see some of those passing zones be implemented. As Josh Pearson made a pass out in turn number 1 of Niels Colin, one of those Ganassi drivers. We see Liam Skeets in the 30 car also make a pass of Jonathan Brown as everybody is getting up to speed here early on. They're making their way around Pioneer Park, and again, Liam Skeets, just a one race effort right now for that young man, 19 years old from Auckland, New Zealand, 5th in USF Pro championship a year ago with a win on the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's going to set up Niels Colin down into turn number 10, Davey. And we talked about it. That's a great place to make passes.
Yeah, great place. And you can see on the inside there's a curb there. It kind of makes that corner tighter. And, boy, you do not want to hit that curb. We see time when people hit that left front on that curb and it shoots them straight to that outside wall. And it'll happen this weekend, I promise you. But, man, you really have to do everything you can to make that a passing zone, but stay off that inside curbing.
Jordan Missick, the fastest driver so far here in practice number 1 for INDYNXT by Firestone. Then a pair of Andretti Global drivers is not the last car we're going to see down there.
Yeah, it went way off, actually, around a couple of the barriers down there. We'll watch a replay right now and just, got it and went to make the corner, just too much speed. No sense risking it at this point in practice. Makes it safe. He comes out of there safe back on racetrack. And I want to go back to Jack Miller. You know, you're right. He had some really good races last year. I remember Detroit. He looked really well. And just some mistakes started happening, you know, and when those mistakes happen, that gives you learn what not to do. So I think that's very healthy. I mean, and not having teammates and doing that all on his own with a single car team, I see good things. By the way, he already went to the first practice, was towards the top of the timing chart. So right now he sits in that 6th spot. So a good start for the season for Miller.
Yeah, having that extra data, that seemed to be the storyline for a lot of these drivers. For Jack William Miller to have extra teammates, Haley Deegan's another driver that moved over from the NASCAR ranks